Okay, so for some background context for Celestials, you have around 11 elements: fire, water, earth, air, nature, toxic, magic, tech, light, darkness, and blank, which is kind of like an unassigned element. And the reason I use the element system is because I was inspired by Skylanders for it, and it makes like a good way of assigning certain heroes to certain missions in like the Hero Force. And then I'm thinking for like the world building. In Celestials, technology is way more advanced, because advanced like in our present, like World War II happened actually before Christ. And so stuff like teleport stations with wormholes, with like wormhole technology, is like a thing to get around on top of cars. Your phone, for example, could fly out of your hand if you don't want to hold it, or it could teleport away when you don't want to keep it in your pocket. Stuff like that. And people usually live in like towns instead of like cities on land, where there's a lot more greenery, and it's a bit more local, but technology is still like they're still like modernized. And in general, like crime rates are low, economy and like health insurance and stuff like that is all like fine. Also like the EU, like sort of like the countries working together very well as well. So just generally everyone's like pretty happy. And that's like for the most part, but of course there are areas on Earth, like let's say in Celestials that would be like America, or like Unork, uh, you New York, where things aren't going as good as in like let's say Belgium, which is like the main land, the main country where everything happens in Celestials. And Belgium actually has more significance and is more like sort of like the how people go to American for like the American dream. It would be like Belgium in Celestials, because I just think it's a nice country. Speaking out of experience, and I feel like it would be like a good setup for the franchise. So the main villains, let's go over them again real quickly. If you didn't see my old videos, so in season one we'd have Molech, the big war demon, that tries to escape from hell to wreak havoc on Earth. So I'm just gonna summarize it. You can watch my old videos if you want the context behind it a bit more. In season two, you would have the Vecners, which are genetically designed monsters to distract the Hero Force as they're cooking up a new plan. Whilst one of the engineers, I forgot his name, whilst one of the engineers who made them is hanging around with a force field to mock the main cast in the meantime. In season three, you get Purifier, a man from Finland who's been wronged his entire life, and there was a lot of crimes involving Jews. So eventually, when he even gets robbed and hit in the face with a bat, which leaves him like with horrible scars, he snaps, and his dad like works at Rico's tech company around the world, and he himself has a workshop as well. He basically becomes like Hitler with saw traps, so he covers up his face with a mask and starts like making saw contraptions, and like going after the people that robbed him, and like going after just like criminals in his country. And then he branches out until in like bunkers around like Europe until the main casts find out. Then in season 4 we have Count Lassilor, a 2,000-year-old vampire from the same like age as Inferno, who like lost his heart and like his hope for humanity, and like becomes a stone cold villain. Uh, and then wait, I'm thinking, and he tries to basically increase the size of his vampire empire, and eventually he tries his most ambitious takeover yet. He tries to take over the whole UK. And then in season 5 you have the best like villain in my opinion yet, Firatu. So if you remember, wait, actually I didn't explain that good in my old video because it was way too long. So Firatu is an evil copy created, like an evil copy of Inferno in season 5, created by like a satanic book that gets its own will, like its own life basically. And Ferrotu has all the knowledge of the book with like dark magic, but also all the skills and memories of Inferno. And this season would be the longest with the most build up. All the other seasons would have build up and like previous interactions as well before like the finale fight. And wait, excuse me. Um, with Ferrotu, there would be even more build up, and so for example, like Inferno would fight him a few times beforehand. He would go around like the countries, like disguising himself as other people with like magic spells, and going on crime sprees. He would meticulously plan out to weaken the nations by like maybe let's say he does like social media, and like normalizes sin, for example. So like Ferrotti is my most intricate villain yet because he's supposed to kind of resemble like Satan as a person, but because he's more of like a divine villain, he would go more after like a grandiose scheme of just like weakening the entirety of Europe, both mentally and physically, and like lead them away from Christianity, lead them away from like just in general every good thing. And he would also just abuse people, take them hostage, stuff like that. He would very meticulously plan out everything, and he wouldn't really get caught much. Uh, I'm also thinking, so Firatu, what else did he do? Uh, oh yeah, eventually, because he has the knowledge of the satanic book, he knows that there's basically kind of like this magic wand at the core of Earth that he can get, and he can power them up with like elemental powers from the other planets that are stored in the cores as well. And so basically, that's like his equivalent of getting the Infinity Gauntlet. And he basically, for the love of the game, because he just loves doing what he loves, he reveals his plans to Inferno and his group on purpose. So he kind of turns it into a race who can collect all the cores of like the other Earths the fastest. And then eventually they end up with like spaceships, both the hero force and the villain force, going to town. They go to like this. They go to the core of Earth, but they find like this giant arena, and only Inferno and Ferratu can enter it because it's like a magic arena made of like this almost indestructible material called black tellurium. And but well, yeah, just tellurium, but you have a white variation as well. And so the entire arena is like this big area with like tiny like structures or like buildings with golden decorations, and all in like this black, like I said, crystal like tellurium material. They're like like magically floating steps like in the air and stuff. And in the middle you have like the wand, the magic wand with like golden decorations on the ground with maybe like a prophecy of them like in it. And this is basically where it turns into one like epic in epic 1v1 Inferno versus Ferrotu, and I think this would be really cool. So I'm thinking if there's anything else I need to say. I'm probably gonna forget some stuff and then just make another video about it, so it doesn't matter that much. For Inferno, as a recap, so Inferno was born in around the time of like the Elemental Masters. So that's when people start to first get like superpowers, and like more magical creatures started to appear in Celestials on Earth after Christ came. And so basically the Element Masters, well, it's self-explanatory. They have more control over their elemental powers than most people. And then later on, people also started developing more powers that altered their bodies and were more like a mix-up of multiple things. And Inferno was well, Midas, his real name, was the leader of a very influential fire tribe, and he died in a war against the corrupt Ice King by exploding himself to kill all his warriors, and then he died by burning from the inside out because the explosion was too much. And essentially, when he's buried on a campfire, he comes out of the campfire as a fire ghost, and he basically gets revived as a miracle by God. And then after a while, he gets his armor from like an armor smith. He starts as a ghost. He starts speaking. He starts regaining his memories because it's kind of like a shell of who he was before. And eventually, he becomes Inferno. He starts taking bounties. He lives around like 20 human lifespans, and so he does a lot of cool stuff. He becomes king of Belgium at one point. He gets society out of like this atheistic depression, and then, well, America's kind of left behind and becomes kind of like New York kind of becomes like a depressed city. And then at some point in one of his lifespans, his wife and children actually get killed by a villain, and he goes on like kind of like this sort of justice arc where he turns into, it's kind of like Doom the Dark Ages. He gets like this way heavier armor body. He gets like a mace and he starts like killing all the people who wronged him, and it's like really heavy metal and stuff. And then I'm thinking he probably does some fun stuff in the meantime as well, like becoming like a barber or a musician or a technician, stuff like that. Just fun like professions, up until he joins the Hero Force in like 2025, and that's when he's at his peak with his other friends. And I think that's everything I have to say for like background of Celestials. Before I forget though, the reason there's so many side characters in Celestials, well, in my old videos I made, in my previous videos I made all these character designs, is for the Celestials video game idea I had, which is similar to Marvel Rivals. Um, and most side characters don't show up for like 90% of the time unless you see them like in an army when they're like fighting. But then they're, because they're just for the video game, but they help with world building as well. But then like side characters like Lucas, which is the assembler of the Hero Force, are actually pretty important and play a relevant role. So it all just kind of depends on the character, but like 80% of them aren't really that important, and are more like playable characters for the video game. So yeah, that's everything. I hope you liked the video and see you next one. Bye.